Power to the truth. This is Margo. This is Sunday, May the 12th, 2019, 8:02 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. So I'm getting kind of a late start tonight, but first thing we're going to do is go over Nostradoomus' weekly methane update. He has been tracking the NOAA readings for methane for the four different levels up in the atmosphere from the two satellites, and he's been doing this since March the 1st, and he's been reporting on it, and I'm presenting it weekly, usually on Sunday, and I've put the data into spreadsheets, and now we've got charts and all kinds of stuff. So we're going to look at his report first, and then we have methane data on cams to look at, and then we're going to look at some Oroville Lake levels and weather that's coming up, and then we're going to look at earthquakes. So it's going to be a packed show with all of this, so I hope everyone is doing well. And so here we go with Nostradoomus' methane update, aka Dave from the UK. Good morning, afternoon, and evening. Here is my latest weekly methane concentration report showing data from the two METOP satellites provided by NOAA, dated May 11th, 2019 in parts per billion. Oh, and he left this as a comment under my video from last night. So if you want to go see the comment, see the actual comment that he did, you can certainly go there. So here are the levels he's recording. Here are the millibars: 931, 706, 477, and 300. Here are all the readings, and here's the change from last week for each level. At 931 millibars, that was up overall 0.75 parts per billion. At 706 millibars, or HPA, it was down 0.5 parts per billion. At 477 millibars, it was up 0.75 parts per billion, and at 300 millibars it was up 2.75 parts per billion. So the highest increase was at the very top end of the atmosphere. So here's his analysis. This shows a marked increase higher up in the atmosphere. The two satellites seem to show conflicting data, as has happened in the past, with the combined METOP-1 satellite AM-PM signifying a drop of 0.75 parts per billion. Contrary to this, the combined METOP-2 data is indicating an increase of 2.625 parts per billion over the previous 7-day period. Taking the figures together as a whole, the average total methane concentration in the atmosphere has risen by 0.94 parts per billion during the past week. My calculation of the 3-week moving average is now showing a reversal in the trend from a steady drop in concentrations, and is now back on the increase from an all-time low since I started measurements of 1837.8 parts per billion last week up to 1838.3 now. This may indicate that methane levels are now back on the rise, weeks ahead of when we would expect this to happen. Much love, Dave. And I want to thank Dave for his reporting, and he's so consistent with providing this data, and he's really good at doing an analysis, and we are citizen researchers here, and then I'm plugging the data into spreadsheets and charts so that it's easy for us to see the trends. And so we are citizen reporters doing this, citizen researchers and reporters, because nobody's going to do this for us. So it's just how it is, and so we're doing our own. So because we have found, and most of us have found, that the people who are in charge, the people who are in the know, don't want to tell us what's really going on, or they give us partial facts and partial lies. And so you just got to figure it out for yourself. And we're smart people, and we can certainly look at data and put trends together. So here's my spreadsheet, and we started this actually back on March the 1st. He did the first reporting for 477 millibars. So I'm tracking that since March the 1st in this green line. And then whenever he has new data, I'm putting it in the spreadsheet. And then it was on March the 9th that he expanded his tracking to these 4 levels. Now, before we get into all the numbers, down here is our guide to what millibars are. This is this tells how high up in the atmosphere you are. 931 millibars equals 1,000 feet or 304 meters, and that's considered surface level. 706 MB, and this is also the same as hectopascal or HPA, is about 10,000 feet up or 3,048 meters. 477 MB is about 20,000 feet up or 6,096 meters, and 300 MB equals 30,000 feet up or 9,144 meters. So you can see that as we go higher in the atmosphere, these numbers get less because this is sea level pressure. So we have less, it has less pressure as it goes higher in the atmosphere. So I'm going to scroll on over. So here are the numbers from this week and the numbers from last week. Let me get a sip of my tea here. I'm already getting hoarse. So just bear with me. I'm doing the best I can. With the Met-Op-1 satellite in the AM reading, at 931 millibars, it was 1,799 parts per billion. These are all parts per billion, so it was down 1 from last week. 706 millibars, it was 1829, so it was down 2 from last week. 477 millibars, it was 1875, so down 1 from last week. 300 millibars, 1879, so it was down 1 from last week. So at 477 it was down 1, but since March the 1st, at 477 it's still up 5 parts per billion on the Met-Op-1 satellite. That's what I'm tracking. Now, Met-Op-1 PM for this week at 931 millibars, it was at 1802, so it was down 1. 706 millibars, it was 1831, so it was down 2. 477 millibars, it was 1872, so it was down 1. At 300 millibars, it was 1876, so it was up 3. That one was up 3. So at 477, it was down 1. since last week, but since March the 1st, it was up 3 parts per billion. Now on our METOP2 satellite, in the AM, 931 parts per billion, it was 1802, so it was up 3 from last week. 706 millibars, 1823, it was up 1 from last week. 477 millibars, it was 1853, up 2 from last week. 300 millibars, 846, up 4 from last week. So on 477 millibars on this satellite, it's up 8 parts per billion since March the 1st. Now, on the METOP2 satellite in the afternoon, on the 931 reading, 931 millibars, it was 1803, so it was up 2. 706 millibars, 1824, up 1 from last week. 477 millibars, 1851, up 3 from last week. 300 millibars, 1843, that's up 5 from last week. So back to 477, that's up 6 since March the 1st. So averaged out, just as Dave said, at the 477 millibars, it's up 0.75 parts per billion this week. And overall, it's up 5.5 parts per billion since March the 1st. And here it is. Here's the 477 mean, average, or mean, right down here too. So there's that. The next spreadsheet we have is these are Dave's figures for the overall mean. And so last week we were at 1837.8. This week we're 1838.3. So we can see that's gone back up. He started giving me the numbers for the overall mean starting going back to March the 23rd. So that's where we started with 1839. But it's headed back up. So there's that. And then one more spreadsheet. Here is the 477 millibar readings. Here are all the numbers since March the 1st. And this is the mean. And here it is for this week, 1862.75. So here's where we started on March the 1st. It was 1857.25. And then we can see that it went up, and then it took a little nosedive here, and then it went back up, and then took a little nosedive, and now it's headed back up. But the overall trend is heading up. So here we are today, or this week, at 1862.75 at 477. So thank you, Dave, for your reporting and for your great research and for being a team here. So let's move on now to CAMS. This is Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Services methane forecast. Their latest data is from yesterday, Saturday, May 11th. I have the Arctic view pulled up and surface level. I have the movie already loaded up. So this is where it ended on Friday. And we've been seeing a release here in the Kara Sea pretty much every day, and then it goes away. Also, right over here, we're seeing methane releasing, and this is where the source of that sulfur dioxide is coming up continuously as well. And then we're seeing a building and releasing down here in Siberia, and we're seeing more releasing in Norway. There's some new releases coming up in Canada, new releases coming across in Russia as things are heating up. And when we get to a wider view, you're going to see waves of methane starting to come up from China and waves of methane coming up in the United States as well. So, the data is from Saturday, and then the forecast period runs through Wednesday. Okay, we can see this high release in the Kara Sea here, and as it moves into the forecast period, it starts spreading out and moving to the northwest of Novaya Zemlya. Oh, and by the way, they just had an earthquake right up here, almost next to the North Pole. It was a 5.4 or something like that. It just came in this afternoon. And yesterday there was a 4.8 earthquake right up here. So things are shaking. We're also seeing a higher release over here in Alaska, and they've got tons of earthquakes over there, and of course the volcanic range, all of these Aleutian Islands that go across, those are all volcanoes. So as things are heating up, you're going to start seeing more methane releasing. And remember that green is a high release color. In the old color chart, the green was this like yellow to orangey color. The green used to signify around 2020 to 2040 parts per billion. And so when they downgraded the color chart back in December of last year, we see green and we are not alarmed. But if we saw orange and yellow and red and black everywhere, we would be alarmed. So you want to keep that in mind too. See this wave of methane coming up out of China? That is, remember, this is surface level, so this is it's waves of methane moving, being released from the surface. Now let's look at the North America. I didn't want more North America. I wanted the North Pole. We're going to look at North America in a minute. I meant to get the North Pole view. Here we go. So here's the North Pole, and we're looking down, and we're able to see the whole northern hemisphere here. This is why I like this view. By the way, there was also a large earthquake down here on the border between Costa Rica and Panama this afternoon, or I think it was sometime today. It's a 6.1. So we're going to be looking at that. As far as I know, there was not major damage. 2 people were injured. Mainly things were knocked off of shelves and things like that. But you would think there would be a huge amount of damage, but you know, maybe they're just now starting to assess it. But here's China. With huge releases of methane, and we can see it moving out into the Pacific Ocean, and Japan has high releases of methane. Here's northern India with high releases. Here's Saudi Arabia over here. Then here's the UK, keeps being covered up with it, and Ireland. Europe is still showing high releases, and it just pops up wherever there's, people, and it's warming up. Lots of people equals methane. Here's a large release coming off the coast of the United States. Look at this, and you see it from the Mississippi Valley and building on over. That's where it was so flooded. They still are underwater there. It's awful. It's just awful. And we have a dire situation building in the Oroville, California region. I've been reporting on this. I'm going to be doing a special show about it and putting it up on Vimeo, and I will let people know when that goes up. But it's going to be a very special report with documents and information that I've gotten in, and people in Oroville and in all California. I'm telling you, I mean, the DWR is playing Russian roulette with that dam, and it's not a good situation. And rain is coming this week. It is coming, starting on Thursday, and the lake is almost full. It's almost up to 889. So there's that view. Now let's look at North America real quick, and then we'll do global and move on. Here's North America, because I have a lot of viewers in North America. But I'd say get your bags packed if you're downstream from the Oroville Dam, all the way down through the Sacramento Valley. I'd say get your bags packed and get ready to go. And go before they tell you to go. Use your intuition and your own instincts, but you need to go while you can. And then if nothing happens, I mean, at least you'll be safe. Take a vacation for a week. Couple of weeks. So we're seeing these very high releases here in the middle of the United States. And this will get worse. As it heats up, you're going to see it just covered up. And remember, this is with the new color scale. So if this were the old color scale, oh my God, it would just be all black. And we're going to have high releases in Southern California. Okay, so there's that. Now let's go to global so that people can see their part of the world. So we can see these waves of green moving across. That's releasing from the ocean. Now, while we're here, let's look at some of these other levels. Here's 500 HPA. That's close to the 477. Here's what it looks like. Here's how it's spread out in the atmosphere. This is about halfway up in the atmosphere. It's about 18,000 feet up. And it gathers over the colder regions at this level. Then here's 300 HPA. This was the level that gained the most points this week, according to Dave's report. So we can see some really high readings up here. This is where in the Arctic, coming from this is Greenland, kind of flattened out. This is Canada, then going across the Arctic. Here, this is Canada, and here's the Pacific Ocean, and here it is coming across, and then northern Russia, Europe and Russia, and then coming down and then across the Pacific. And then here's total column. This is going all the way up through all of the layers, and the one with the highest reading on total column is over here in China. And last year, if you look back through some of my videos from last year when I showed total column, it was very rarely any kind of red over here. So that's how much it's increased. And the only color chart that they changed was the surface level color chart. All of these others are the same. So we can see that it's getting worse all the way through the layers. So I'm going to leave this as a backdrop now. Now let's move on. Let's look at Oroville next. Here are the daily readings, and we can see it's still going up, up, up. And here's the inflow and here's the outflow. This is cubic feet per second. Here's evaporation, and here's something else. So the inflow is still more than the outflow, and it ended last night at midnight at 888.72, and yesterday it went up 0.23 feet. Yeah, 0.23 feet. So not quite a quarter of a foot, just about 3 inches. Here it is from today. This is real time. What time is it? 8 o'clock. Let's see if we've got the 8 o'clock reading in. You have to hit the latest link twice. Yep. So it's holding. Right now the lake level is holding at 888.86, but still going up. It slowed down, but they're still not using the main spillway. It's almost to 890, 886, so let's see how much it's gone up today. 888.86 minus 888.72. It's gone up 0.14 foot. So it's just like drip, drip, drip. Drip, drip, drip. Eventually it fills up. Here on Weather Underground, let's refresh this to make sure we have the latest. Here's Oroville, California forecast for the next 10 days. And starting on Thursday, they're going to have rain. They have 88% chance of rain. At one point, I was looking at this and it said 90% chance of rain. So right now, they're at 88% chance of rain. At 9 a.m. And they're anticipating about 1/4 of an inch. On Friday, the rain chances they got rain chances all during the day. The highest is 36% in the evening of 0.17 inches. Saturday, they have 38% chance of rain with about 1/4 of an inch possibility. On Sunday, they have about a 40% chance of rain with 0.4 of an inch. And then on Monday, they still have rain chances as high as 34% with 0.02 inches. And then sunny on Tuesday. But that's the 10-day forecast. So, with 1 inch of rain, with all the runoff, that equals a lake level rise of 12 feet. And that emergency spillway tops off at 901 feet. So once you get up to 901, if they don't open the main spillway, it starts running over the emergency spillway. So we're almost at 889. We're just almost. So 901 minus 889, 12 feet. So we'll be at 889 probably tomorrow. So this is a dire situation, and this is probably I've got the worst feelings about this that I've had about anything in a long, long time. So anyway, there's that. Now, let's move to our earthquake reports. Let's see what's about. Okay, we've got USGS 253 earthquakes in the last 24 hours. Of those, 38 are 2.5 magnitude or higher. This 2.5 Dominican Republic is about to come off the map. 2.5 Puerto Rico, 2.9 Puerto Rico, 2.9 Hawaii. Okay, that's at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to start over here. Work my way around. I'm going to do this west side of the Pacific first, and then we'll come down and do this side. So we're going to start here in Turkey, 4.1 near Bigadik, Turkey at 3:24 this afternoon. We're seeing quite a few on land here. Here's a 4.4 near Akbarabad, Iran at 7:46 this morning. 4.4 near Harnai, Pakistan at 10:29 this morning. Then down here, 4.9 near Kangkutuk, Sabrang, Indonesia at 1:51 this morning. Here's a 4.8 near Kimbe, Papua New Guinea at 2:17 this afternoon. 5.0 near Lata, Solomon Islands at 2:08 this afternoon. And a 5.1 near L'Esperance Rock, New Zealand. Now this is in the Kermadec Islands, so it's north of New Zealand. This came in at 7:11 tonight, 35 kilometers deep. Then coming on up, there were two right here north of the Philippines. 5.4 near Claveria at 1:59 this morning. It's in the ocean. And then a 4.7 same place at 3 o'clock this morning. So we can see it's close to these little islands. So probably didn't do any damage because the ocean just buffers everything. Then down here in Japan, 4.7 near Tsukumo, Japan at 11:07 last night in the ocean. Here's one off the coast of Kamchatka, Russia, 4.3 at 10:16 last night. Now we're going to move on across. I'm going to start over here in the Atlantic. Here is a 4.8 on the northern mid-Atlantic ridge, right on the red line, at 2:11 this afternoon. Then down here in South America, 4.1 near Tocopilla, Chile, at 11:42 last night. 4.4 near Uyuni, Bolivia, at 9:44 this morning, 187 kilometers deep. 4.6 near Putre, Chile, at 2:52 this afternoon, 157 kilometers deep. Then coming on up, here's a 4.5 near Guamal, Colombia, at midnight, a little after midnight, 12:28 this morning. And all these times I'm telling you are Pacific time, because that's my time zone. Then we've got two here. Here's the 6.1 near Canoas, Costa Rica. That's the reporting station. This came in at 12:24 this afternoon, 19 kilometers deep. It was on land, right on the border between Costa Rica and Panama. And here's a 4.5 that just came in at 6:01 this afternoon. So this is like an aftershock. near Puerto, Costa Rica. Now, let's look at, I've got some articles on this. Here's from Volcano Discovery about this earthquake at Costa Rica. Here's the I Felt It reports. Here's someone 320 kilometers away said, I just sat down and felt myself swaying forward and back as if someone were rocking me in a rocking chair. I'm on the 10th floor of a condo directly on the beach. That'd be kind of scary. Here's one from Jaramillo Centro, Boquete District, Panama. Lasted for about 15 seconds. Very loud noise in a cinder block home approximately 4 kilometers from center of Boquete, Panama. So, I know they had stuff falling off of shelves. Here's an article from The Express in the UK. This is from today. I've got the Clean Viewer on. Panama earthquake, strong quake rattles Costa Rica border, ring of fire on alert. This was published today. Supermarket destroyed as earthquake strikes region. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Hadn't seen that before. So the whole display thing fell over. The whole aisle fell over. The EMSC said the quake registered at 6.2 magnitude. The quake struck near the city of David, near Panama's border with Costa Rica. The USGS said the quake struck at a depth of 12 miles at 8:24 p.m. BST. Photos shared on social media showed damage caused by the quake. Businessman Sidney Sitton shared pictures of shelves toppled over in a supermarket with paint and cooking sauces covering the floor. He said people were nervous and frightened by the strong shaking. Others left their accounts of the quake on the EMSC website. Shoppers fled a supermarket when the shaking began. There's a picture of them all coming out. One said, it lasted for a while. The mirrors, chandeliers, and other things continued swaying for about 30 seconds. Very strong, like bouncing. Standing up outside, I felt the ground waving under my feet. The USGS's automatic analysis indicated there's a high likelihood no serious damage had been caused. So it was right here. 60% chance the estimated economic losses due to the quake would be between $0 and $1 million. That's a wide range. 30% chance damages costing more than $1 million, but less than $10 million may have been caused. Overall, the population in this region resides in structures that are a mix of vulnerable and earthquake-resistant construction. The prominent vulnerable building types are mud wall and informal metal, timber, glass, etc. construction. GI, I don't know what GI, I'm thinking that's glass. No, probably wrong. Recent earthquakes in this area have caused secondary hazards such as landslides and liquefaction that might have contributed to losses. So, we're going to keep an eye on that. We're going to keep those people in our prayers. Now let's come back to our earthquakes. So then, up here in the Caribbean Sea, was a 4.5 near Rocky Point, Jamaica at 1:18 this morning. So we're seeing lots of movement. Oh, by the way, there was a solar flare. I mean, the sunspot erupting. 2 sunspots Earth facing right now, and we had an eruption. So that's headed towards Earth. Okay, so we've got 5 here at the Dominican Republic. 2.5, 2.9, 2.8, 3.3, 2.7. Oh, let's go to all magnitudes for those. So we got 3 that are higher than that. So 8 total. Now that's not enough to cause damage, but it's still showing movement. Now, here's one off the coast of Mexico, a 4.2, Tres Picos, Mexico, at 4:25 this afternoon. So this is showing a lot of earthquakes considering it's a weekend. Now let's look at Hawaii, and the earthquake makers are at home. We've got 8 here today. Here's a 2.9, that's at Kilauea. 3.0, Kilauea. 1.8, 2.1, 1.9. That one's kind of near Mauna Loa. 2.0, 2.0, and 2.0. So that's showing activity. Well, we got 2 new ones. We've got a 4.7 near Bunti, Papua New Guinea, just came in at 8:20, 130 kilometers deep. And a 4.5 just came in near Iwo Jima, Japan, at 7:58 this afternoon, 84 kilometers deep. Okay, let's move on up. Here's this one in the Arctic that just happened just before my show. A 5.4 east of Severnaya Zemlya. This happened at 5:43 this afternoon. And so we know this area. This is the East Siberia ice shelf all along here. This is the Chukchi Sea. This is the Laptev Sea. This is the Kara Sea. Here's Novaya Zemlya. Here's Yama Peninsula. It's right here that we were seeing that sulfur dioxide come up in Norilsk and that whole thing that we've been researching. So it's not too far from this area, just straight over, and it's right on that red line where the North American plate and the Eurasian plate meets. 5.4 at 5:43. So there's that. So things are happening. Lots of movement. Lots of things are happening. And we saw that sulfur dioxide, large sulfur dioxide release over here yesterday. Now, that can be a precursor to earthquakes, is what I've seen, and that's kind of far. I'm not sure how far that is, but it's probably not related, but I have seen that as a precursor to earthquakes. Now in Alaska, we have 73 here, all magnitudes. Let's see how many of those are 2.5 magnitude or higher. Just a couple. just 2.6 at Kobuk and a 3.4 at Circle. So, looking at all magnitudes, look at this line coming up this Cook Inlet. There are volcanoes all the way up along here, and I think they're coming back active. I mean, we were seeing methane coming up here, and methane coming up about here too, where all of these earthquakes are. So it's a whole line. Redoubt volcano is right here. There's a 1.6 Redoubt volcano. 1.9, 1.8, 1.5, 1.1. Here's a 2.0. So they're coming on up, spreading out. Anchorage is clear. That's a first to not see one at Anchorage today. 1.6 Valdez. 1.1. So here's the Alaska mountain range. So they're spreading out. Let's look at Kobuk. We've got 16 here today. A lot of them are at surface level. When you see 0 kilometers depth, that's at the surface. Here's one on the edge. 2.4 Shishmaref. Then we've got 3 up here near Koktovik. And so on. And this is that 3.4 circle. Now, let's come on down to the lower 48. We're going to start over here with this 2.3 near Lilburn, Missouri. Now, this is in that New Madrid hazard zone. This happened at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Then, down here was a 3.1 near Cuero, Texas. Looks like it's next to San Antonio at 7:37 this morning. And then here's a 2.6 Plainville, Kansas at 1:13 this morning. They had one there yesterday too. Remember. Utah is clear. Then Yellowstone only is showing 3 today at 0.8. West Yellowstone, Montana. 1.3 Challis, Idaho, and a 0.6 at Dillon. Then up here in the northwest region, we're seeing 1. 2.3 came in at Port Townsend, Washington at 4:13 this afternoon. Now let's look at the tremor map. For the last 3 hours, they're showing 1.4 hours of tremors. And so that's half the time. It was shaking mainly to the southwest of Portland. For the last 12 hours, they've got 8.6 hours of tremors. That's very high. And then in the last 24 hours, they've got 17.4 hours of tremors. So look at where they're clustering right now. Southwest of Portland, just west of Salem, west of Eugene, and west of Medford. And then a few down here west of Reading. But this is showing movement of this this plate. This is the Cascadia subduction zone along here. So even though USGS might not be reporting earthquakes that are happening, we can tell from the tremor map that there is movement. So this whole area is moving, and shaking. And the tremors happen before earthquakes. And right at the bottom of that subduction zone right here was a 2.5 magnitude earthquake at Petrolia at 6:43 this afternoon. Okay, let's come on over to Nevada. We've got 0.4 at Carson City, 0.1 Cold Springs, minus 0.3, and a minus 0.2 at Lemon Valley. That's just north of Reno. Now let's come on down. Here's a 1.2 at Urington. Here's 12 on the map here. But we got, I didn't mean to get Mammoth on there. Anyway, it's on there. So we got Goldfield. We got some things going on at Goldfield. Let's see if anything is 2.5 magnitude or higher. No, not right there. So we've got Hawthorne, we've got Goldfield, we've got Dixon Lane Meadow. Why are they calling that Mammoth Lakes? That's in Nevada. That should be Hawthorne. These two, they're calling Mammoth Lakes as the reporting station. That should be Hawthorne. Whatever. Then we got some down here in southern Nevada. Small ones. These are microquakes at Beatty. So hopefully we won't see a bunch of quarry blasts today because they're supposed to be at home on the weekend, not blasting. 1.4 Goldfield, 0.1 Bridgeport, 0.2 Dixon Lane, 0.2 Big Pine, 0.5 Lone Pine, 1.8 Beatty, 0.6 Goldfield. Then down here in the Coso Junction region, we've got 14 here today. They're mainly clustering over here. The 2.9 looks like is the biggest one. Here's a 1.1. And then there are ones and under besides that. Next, here's a 1.3 at Bodfish, 0.8 California City. Uh-oh, I spoke too soon. 1.6 magnitude quarry blast at Boren. They blast on Sundays at 4 o'clock. This one happened at 4:54 p.m., right before quitting time. They need to not blast on Sundays at least. They need to leave Mother Earth alone for a couple of days. That's just not right. So here in Southern California, we're seeing 41 today. Here's a 2.2 Borrega Springs. I'm just going to get some of the bigger ones. 2.3 Desert Hot Springs. Here's a 1.1 Aguanga. Here's a 1.3 Chadsworth, and so forth. So this red line is the San Andreas fault line. And then it picks up down here and becomes the Imperial fault line. Here's a 1.2 Pine Mountain Club. 1.3 Arvin. Look at all this activity. I think it's because of the blasting. Although these happened before the blasting, but still can't help anything. 2.3 Avila Beach. Here's a 1.4 Morgan Hill. 2.1 Seven Trees. I'm coming on up. Here's a 2.0 Lake Pillsbury. And then at the geysers today we've got 38. And two of those are 2.5, 2.5 and a 2.5. And the rest of them are under that. So let's zoom out and see what else has come in. 1.1 Coso Junction, 1.4 Goldfield. You know, they're just gonna be popping up. They do this at night. They just keep popping up. Oh, we saw that. 4.7. Look. Up here in Alaska, they just keep popping up. 2.8 Talkeetna, 2.0 Seaward, so forth. So little ones count. Little earthquakes add up and can lead to larger earthquakes, is what we've seen. So you want to remember that. 2.9 Coso Junction, that just came in. That was at 8:23. Look at that. Well, I better stop before any more pop up. So I'm praying for everyone. Praying for people to have the ears to hear and the eyes to see, and to act accordingly. Go within. Try to get your own answers. Tune in to your inner wisdom and ask for God and Jesus and the angels to protect you and to watch over you and to guide you in whatever you're supposed to do, and to guide you to where to go. And for some people, they won't leave. They won't go to a safe place. You know, it might be their time to go. I don't know. I mean, we're all going to go, but we all have a time to go. But I'm praying for everybody's souls, and that you get right with God and Jesus while you still have time. Because time is so short. It's just so short. So until next time, go in peace. God bless you. I'll talk to you soon. Good night.